welcome to another episode into our deep dive of the Grimm Dark Original fairy tales. This might be one you've heard of, it might not. I personally hadn't heard of this one, but it's such a little treat. I was saving it until October, with it being Halloween month, but I needed some darkness in my life, so you have to too. Here we go. So today we'll be discussing the Three Army Surgeons. This was first published in the Brothers Grimm Children's and Household Tales in the second version in the year 1815, just over a century ago. And this is a dark tale involving troublesome servants, drunk doctors, magical healing, and a thieving cat. I probably should offer a trigger warning. There is some animal cruelty in here. It is a fairy tale, so it's not going to be graphic, but there is mention of certain things happening to them that the characters do. So if you don't like it, don't watch it. But with that said, let's get right into it. So our tale opens with our three army surgeons. They're travelling the world and extending their education. They want to learn everything there is to know about healing, the body, everything, and they've become masters in their field. And they stumble upon this inn one night, and they go to stay there, and they're talking amongst themselves at the bar, and the innkeeper says, "What is it that you do for a living?" And they say, "We're army surgeons, we can heal absolutely any wound at all. Unless the guy's already dead, then we can heal them." And the barman asks him, "How can you do that? Can you show me?" Now by this time they are quite far gone. They are quite drunk, and everybody knows that the best plans happen when people are drunk in pubs. So I'm going to read this next bit because you really have to read it to believe it, kind of. The first surgeon said that he would cut off his own hand and put it back on again in the morning. The second said that he would tear out his heart and put it back in place in the morning. The third said that he would poke out his eyes and put them back in their sockets in the morning. Seriously, can't they just have a shot of tequila like everybody else? Indeed, they had a salve that immediately healed any wound when they rubbed it on, and they carried the salve in a little flask that they kept with them all the time. So each one cut a different organ from his body, the hand, the heart, and the eyes, and then they put them on a plate and gave them to the innkeeper, who handed the plate to the maid, who was then to put it in the cupboard for safekeeping. Very hygienic. Nothing can go wrong with all your organs stuffed on a platter in a cupboard. But yeah, that was their master plan, to show their skills. Now, unknown to everyone, the maid in this particular story had a secret sweetheart who was a soldier, and she snuck him inside the inn every night when everybody else had gone to bed, and she fed him. But she was so enraptured by her secret lover that she forgot to close the cupboard again, because, of course, you would put all these organs that are just out on a plate in where you keep the food. But in this, she forgot to close the cupboard door again. And while they were enjoying their blissful interactions, they didn't notice that a cat had come in the inn and gone to the cupboard and stolen the hand, the heart, and the eyes, eaten them, and then gone off again. Now, when some time had passed and the soldier had eaten and they had fulfilled their need for each other, the maid was clearing up, and it was only then that she saw that this cupboard door was still open, so she went to go and have a look. And as soon as she saw that the hand, the eyes, and the heart weren't there anymore, she started wailing into her apron because, yeah. Now, she laments to her soldier boyfriend that she's going to be in really big trouble for this, and it's kind of his fault because he shouldn't have been there in the first place. But he agrees to help her, and he says, "Look, all we need is a hand, a heart, and eyes. That's all we need. They won't know that it's not theirs." I'm pretty sure they would. But he said on his way into the inn, he had seen dangling from the gallows outside a thief, and he was dead, of course. Well, not of course, because he might have still been kicking and just left it. Never mind. He saw this body on the gallows, and he decided to go out there, and he cut off the thief's right hand and placed it on the platter. Then, this is the animal bit, so skip forward a few seconds if you don't want to hear it. So to get the eyes, he looks around. Why they didn't just take everything from the thief outside? Because at least it'd be human. I don't know. Logic, I guess. He catches the cat that ate the hand, the heart, and the eyes. Our cat won't even eat chicken. Anyway, he catches this cat and he plucks out its eyes. It doesn't say that he kills it, he just takes its eyes out and puts them on the platter with the hand. The more I talk about this, the more disgusting it must be, because then you'll get blood on the eyes and you're supposed to put them back in your head and just And now so they had the hand of the thief and they had the eyes from the cat. Now there was just the heart to go, and they were wondering where they were going to get one. And the maid had recently slaughtered a pig in the cellar for the meal that night. And he goes to her, well, the body's still down there. Did you take the heart out of it? And she said no. So they went down the cellar, they removed the pig's heart, and they put that on the platter with the hand of the thief and the eyes of the cat. And everything was on this tray, and the maid puts this tray back into the cupboard and then goes calmly to bed. For me, I'd have hightailed it out of there. So the morning comes round, and the surgeons, full of bravado still, go downstairs and say, bring the platter, we will show you our skill set. The platter's brought out. They don't notice anything different. I think I'd notice if it wasn't my hand on a platter and the cat's eyes would have to be smaller. The heart, probably. The first surgeon picked up the hand of the thief and rubbed salve on it and on his stump, and the hand reattached to his arm. The second surgeon took the eyes, rubbed salve on them, put them back in his empty sockets, and voila, he could see again. The third surgeon put the pig's heart back in his body. How was he still alive without his heart? The hand and the eyes I can get. How could he... It's a fairy tale. Logic doesn't come into it. Now, as the innkeeper watched, he was in awe at their skill and said that he would recommend them, praise them to the skies for everybody that he would meet. Everybody that would come in the inn, he would say that these three are the only three you need to see. If you've got something wrong with you and you're not dead, you need to go see this lot. And the surgeons paid their bill and kept on their journey. However, there's always a however. But however, all did not go smoothly while they were leaving the inn and journeying forward. The surgeon who had the pig's heart installed in him kept leaving the group to go and snuffle in dark corners, as pigs are wont to do when they're looking for truffles. His friends tried to hold him back by his coattails because they thought he was still a bit drunk and doolally, but he wasn't having any of it, and he kept breaking free to run and snuffle in the places that were most infested with garbage. Now, the second surgeon was also acting a bit weird. He couldn't walk in a straight line, it was like he couldn't see where he was going, and he kept rubbing his eyes because it just looked weird. And he finally turns to his companion, who's not snuffling around in the garbage, and says to him that these can't be my eyes, they're all wrong, they're the wrong colour, I can't see a thing. And he implores his friend to help him walk because he can't see where he's going. And they carried on in this difficulty. Why they didn't just turn back to the inn that they'd just left if they knew something was wrong, but they carried on to another one. And in this other one, in the bar, was a very rich man, and he was counting his coins on the table for everyone to see. And the third surgeon's hand started to itch and move of its own volition. And when the rich man was distracted by something else, his hand reached into the pile of gold coins and took a handful. And his friend saw this. Whether it was the one snuffling in the garbage or the cat one, I'm not sure. But his friend saw this and said, "You really shouldn't be doing that. That's not like you. We're rich enough. You don't need to steal. It's illegal." The surgeon replied that he couldn't help himself. His hand kept twitching and he couldn't control it. It just wanted to take things and pick things up that weren't his. Now afterwards, that night, when they were all in bed because they were all sharing a room, the surgeon who had the cat's eyes woke up and could see little white mice snuffling around the skirting boards in the pitch black. Now he calls to his other friends and says, "Wake up, the place is infested by mice, can't you see them?" They of course could only see the dense blackness because the surgeon with the cat's eyes could see in the dark. And it was only at this point that they decided that something was so wrong that they had to go back to the inn that they'd left, because they obviously hadn't got their own organs back. One of them was reduced to snuffling in garbage, one of them could only see in the dark, and one of them kept nicking stuff. They decided to return to the inn and confront the innkeeper who had cheated them. That was their conclusion, and they made this to do this as quickly as possible. So they waited until morning. They got back to the inn and they grabbed hold of the innkeeper by his collar and were shaking him and beating him and saying, "You cheated us, you took our organs, how dare you?" While they were throttling this innkeeper, they told him, "You didn't give us the right organs, you gave us a pig's heart, you gave us cat's eyes, and you gave us a thief's hand instead of our own. What the hell have you done with them?" Now the innkeeper, ever the upstanding hero, immediately snitches that it must have been the maid's fault because he left them in her capable hands and he would go and fetch her, so she could suffer this beating instead of him. But the maid had already seen the 3 army surgeons coming back down the road and she had already hightailed it out of the back door and away, so she wasn't there either. Now, when the surgeons heard this, that they wouldn't be getting their organs back, they went menacingly to the innkeeper and said, "You lost our organs. You need to give us money or we will burn this place down around your ears, and make sure you burn with it." So the innkeeper gave them all the money that he had at the bar, all the money that he had in the inn, and promised them that they would get all the money that he kept elsewhere as well. And the 3 friends departed. The money lasted them their whole lives. Jesus, how rich was this innkeeper? But they would much have preferred to have their own organs back. Then maybe they shouldn't have got pissed and cut them out in the first place in a show of bravado, but never mind. But yeah, that is the 3 army surgeons. That is a weird, strange little tale that I found quite amusing when I was reading through, and I wanted to share with all of you. As always, if you like this video, please show me down below, and don't forget to subscribe to me because I like to see those numbers hightailed up there. And as always, keep reading.